Greetings, everybody who's tuning into this uh, reading of this present time. When you find it, will be the appropriate time for you. I hope that you find what you're looking for in listening to this reading. I have decided to record this on a whim as a final recording from my humble abode where I have resided for the last almost 4 years. Life is changing again, and I personally am in need of change, although the changes that I'm facing are not as comforting as I might have hoped for. But comfort is greatly overrated for those of us who are seeking freedom. So I hope that we can find a collective message that resonates along the lines of this new energy. Because I don't know about you, but part of the reason why I came to this reading was because I felt overwhelmed by a sense of grief. Um, I've been feeling a lot of anxiety because of moving and having to make certain choices. And I knew that the grief was deeper than just a reactive response to change. Although, energetically speaking, of course, we are looking at very intense changes as we have multiple planets changing signs in the coming months. And we have Saturn now direct. We also have, of course, Pluto moved into Aquarius. At the time I'm recording this, that was yesterday. And all of these changes, particularly when you're in Saturn and Pluto energy at its peak, when it changes direction. Saturn changed direction on the 15th of November. So we are in the thick of some deep, um, well, energies surrounding Chronos, time, the passage of time, the loss of time, the shrinking of time as a concept, as an available resource, perhaps, for some. And Pluto, the great planet of transformation through death and rebirth, and sometimes death, um, other than literal, of course, can be uh, extremely uncomfortable and painful, and of course, full of grief. What lies between grief and death and rebirth is grief in the figurative sense. And so that is the essence of the energy of this time, even though there are all kinds of other more promising energies. And of course, the unraveling of a brand new cycle of Pluto in Aquarius is exciting in many ways, but also comes with great unknowns and great responsibility and great repurposing. And that can be very scary for most of us, I think. So we're on the precipice of the unknown, of big changes, of shifts that we cannot even begin to conceive of. And as we are moving out of Scorpio season tomorrow, at the time that I'm recording this, we will move into Sagittarius. And that also means that when I'm recording this, and when I was compelled to record it, we are wrapping up scorpionic energy at its peak, at the anaretic degree. Uh, so if she sees it, happy, solar return to my sister, who is a 29-degree Scorpio. And the anaretic degree is a really tough one to carry in life. I'm a Leo anaretic degree. Very oddly, my parents had two children born at 29 degrees, the sign in which they were born. And there's an energy of completion, of mastery in that. But when you are neither complete nor mastered, that is very much the energy that I was just talking about, the in between, the grief that can exist between death and rebirth. That's almost a one could say a curse or a blessing, but a curse and a burden, and well, certainly a heavy weight to carry, and one that requires an enormous amount of processing to move towards that mastery. And of course, everything in life is aspirational. We are not born with, well, some people do have very lucky birth charts, I suppose. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but they have very uncomplicated birth charts. There's not that many people that do, but you do find them. And their lives may be smooth sailing. They probably have perhaps a more energetic purpose to fulfill in this lifetime, just by carrying a certain ease or facilitation. Whereas those of us that have birth charts with very trying dynamics, um, we have to go through the temperance process in order to eventually reach the star energy. And so, on the other side of all of this, collectively and individually, there is a star waiting to be caught. But we're not there right now. And obviously, you can sense this in everything. Part of the grief that I felt was a anticipatory grief because we are in a very difficult position globally, from the perspective of how our leaders are behaving. And I'll be political for 1 second. It's not about endorsement or perspective on the values of the of the characters involved. Um, but as a person who always considered myself by identity politics, particularly because of my sexuality, as always needing to be aligned with leftist political parties, I found myself absolutely gobsmacked to see that we had the president elect perhaps running on all kinds of other bizarre, twisted, male ego dominant narratives around all kinds of things that I don't think are particularly consequential or important, but not in the face of, planetary collapse. But that it was that particular president elect who was the peace candidate, who was the person saying, look, none of this really matters if we face nuclear Armageddon. And so it is our current president, who is in power for no more than another couple of months, who is um, pushing us on the brink of diabolical uh, unrest. And of course, now to get back into the more spiritual aspects of this, because it really isn't about politics. And as I made a point of saying, it has, you know, I don't care about policies at the end of the day. What I care most about, of course, I care about those in my individual life, but I mean, in this space, I don't care about them. What I care about is who and what is aligned with life. Because at the end of the day, that's what we are here to experience: human life, and life with all the elements of nature in providence. So I'm taking this moment to express all of this because it was felt so deeply, as I said, in an anticipatory way, that grief comes before rebirth. And we are somewhere between death and grief right now. I'm sorry to be so heavy, but I can't imagine anybody who's watching this isn't aware of that. And I don't think that any of us wants a Pollyanna approach to life. We know how to elevate frequency through spirituality and through holding space for the very best of ourselves. But that isn't always easy to do. So, on that note, I am going to stop talking and get into the cards. So I'm also going to turn the camera down. Let's start with our two animal oracle cards of the week. First, we have number 53, Seahorse Spirit. Watch and wait. Hovering gracefully, the seahorse observes with the perspective of one who is not engulfed by the drama, remaining at a distance from all the turbulence. Seahorse spirit appears at this time to remind you of the need to be neutral and gain perspective. Your message from Seahorse spirit is not my circus, not my monkeys. Spirit wants you to know that even if you are tempted to jump into the fray and try to fix things, the best way to serve yourself and others right now is to remain calm and simply watch and see. Another message here is that whatever your query, Seahorse Spirit asks you to step back from it, be willing to explore things from different angles rather than a single one, and just observe what is possible. From the perspective of the position of the neutral observer, you will discover a myriad of opportunities and a deeper understanding of what you seek and why, and you will know beauty, truth, love, and wisdom. Number 35, Koala Spirit. Spirit has a plan. In nature, the koala moves slowly through the branches of the eucalyptus tree, leisurely chewing the leaves, reminding us that life is not a race or competition. Chasing around after every distraction can keep us from recognizing that we have all we need, and that Spirit will always be there with gifts to sustain us. You are being asked to trust that by moving slowly with faith in the abundance that is everywhere, surrendering to a power greater than yourself, you will be able to experience the manifestation of your desire. As you take your time enjoying the riches available to you right now, sitting peacefully, you begin to radiate the joy and abundance you seek. Spirit is here to help you discover happiness, pleasure, and contentment. All gifts that are yours now and all gifts that are yours now and in the future. Have faith and trust in Spirit's plan for you, and know that you are loved and cherished. If you're feeling uneasy and mistrustful of the world, have you been hiding in a safe spot, afraid to venture out because you're convinced that life and other people will disappoint you? Koala Spirit has appeared to let you know that your faith is misplaced. The present safety you seek is already passing away because all things are temporary and outer conditions are always changing. Find your safety by placing your faith and trust in Spirit, who will grow the abundance that is already yours. Perhaps you're acting slowly and overly cautiously because you lack faith that there is more for you out there than what you know. You may have boxed yourself into a safe place that has nothing else to give you and become so familiar with it that you have forgotten to explore. Are you feeling pessimistic and convinced that there is nothing more out there for you? Koala Spirit reminds you that self care is meant to replenish you so that you can venture out again in faith, trusting that there is no limit to the joy Spirit wants you to experience. Be good to yourself and reconnect with Spirit to reclaim your faith in things yet unseen. We then have Fork in the Road, number 13. This from the Wisdom of the Oracle deck. It's time to make a decision. Consider the consequences as you prepare to act, owning up to your own obligations to make a necessary choice. Every choice has a consequence. You've arrived at a fork in the road and are being asked to come to a decision. Will you further your dream by choosing left or by choosing right? Will you take the road less traveled or the one well worn by others who have come before you? This is your choice and yours alone to make. Circumstances and other people will not make it for you. Be present and do not avoid this junction, for it is an important crossroads. Take heart, as no matter which path you choose, you will have a rich and meaningful experience. Indecision is extremely frustrating and will lead to anxiety, loss, and confusion. At this juncture, you can't remain in place without losing your way altogether. Avoid the tendency to let others choose for you, which amounts to subtle refusal to take responsibility. Don't give your power away, not even to this oracle. By not making a choice, you are making a choice for which you must be accountable. If that choice leads to undesirable circumstances, take heart. Spirit never tires of giving you second chances. You can always start again once you've learned this valuable lesson. And from the White Light Oracle, we have number 28, Epsilon Modulation. Gather your energies and go within to regenerate. Let your actions match your inner rhythms rather than trying to force yourself to keep pace with external cues. Commit to your own natural timing and pace. As you ground and connect to your center, you will realize your spiritual power to be a cause in any situation of concern. You have such goodness and light within you. Let go of shaming or blaming. Embrace the spiritual beauty. Reaching inspired spiritual heights requires commitment to developing powerful, deep roots. A mature creative offering takes longer to produce than that which is ephemeral and swiftly supplanted by whatever is next. To embrace the patience required for such building, surrender the need for immediate gratification. We must become so confident in the authenticity and value of our process that we are not in need of external evidence to bolster our courage. We can also enjoy validation along the way, but must not turn away if it is absent for a time, especially if those around us appear to be moving faster. With such confidence and courage, we will be able to deepen and slow our breath and our restless nature and allow for the inner workings of our souls to manifest beautiful healing magic. This oracle asks you to ground yourself, believe in your potential, commit to your path, and be patient so great things can happen to you. And moving into our tarot energy, from the wild unknown, we have our underlying energy, what we're leaving behind and moving out of, what's at the center of our current energy and influencing us the most. And this is our future energy here on the right. And from the Rider-Waite, we have clarifiers. So let's start here with our underlying energy. And it's a doozy because we have two 10s in reverse. And these are already the more difficult of the ending cycles of the tens. We have the Ten of Wands and the Ten of Swords. In reverse, these both point to it being an internal struggle that, if we're taking, for example, the Ten of Wands, this is where we've reached a point in our life where we feel truly burdened by a lack of inspiration, that at every corner that we turn, we see mirrors of unmet needs, abandoned projects, experiences that failed to ground us in commitment or offer us direction. It's the self fulfilling prophecy of negativity. And this creates a crisis point within when we internalize these things to this degree. And of course, that's what the Ten of Swords really indicates. The Ten of Swords is always when it's darkest right before the dawn. And so there is hope in both of these cards. And the fact that they are internal also shows that it's not our environment that's causing this strife, that it's how we perceive our place in our environment. And so it's up to us to make that radical self acceptance and then drive that into some form of inspiration and set our sights on new horizons. And as we just heard through the epsilon modulation message, that we have to find that courage and that self belief and ride the wave of those self driven aspects in order for us to find fulfillment. Now, this is pretty self explanatory when we're looking at the energy that we're leaving behind, because we, of course, come in here with the Eight of Swords, the classic I'm too old, I'm too short, I'm too fat, I'm too thin, I'm too ugly, I'm too underqualified, I'm too whatever it is, mixed with the Queen of Pentacles, which is really a disastrous combination because the Queen of Pentacles is self assured that everything that she possesses has value and therefore carries forth into magical manifestation. This is really an indication that these final cycle tens here are really bringing us to a massive ending and closure. And of course, as we spoke about at the beginning of this reading, grief is the energy between death and birth that catapults us forward. And this, of course, can create an enormous amount of insecurity and self doubt. So we're being reminded here that we have to come back into a sense of self worth. And this has been what the last energetic cycle has been all about. And perhaps even that last push of Pluto in Capricorn in its retrograde and then moving over that final 29th degree of Capricorn, coming to a place where our authority resides within. And sometimes we need to remind ourselves of that, because when we've been in this 10 energy for too long, it becomes very difficult to imagine that there is, or to perceive that there is something on the other side of the mountain. And we are at the top of the mountain. We're just not yet at the area where we can see what's on the other side. This was clarified, giving us more insight with the Two of Cups in reverse, the King of Pentacles upright, and the Page of Pentacles upright. So what we have here is the combination of how we perceive our experiences in mirrors with the people in our environment, what our expectations are of other people, how we show up and how we receive other people. And this is what warps our self-perception into Eight of Swords energy. And with the heavy emphasis on Pentacles energy here, we see that the mind invalidates the emotion and therefore cannot manifest. This is mastery of that manifestation, which goes in balance with self-assurance of being enough of the Mother of Pentacles. The Page of Pentacles indicates that there's a slowness to this, and so therefore that's probably what's been keeping us anchored in this 10 of Swords and 10 of Wands energy, because as we process and eliminate all of these wands and swords that are holding us back so that we can finally receive a new ace. There's a deep feeling of being stuck, of having been stuck. So if you're feeling stuck or have felt stuck, the welcome reminder here is that at the center of our energetic reading, we do have that Ace of Wands. So this is finally coming to us. I don't know. I have a strong intuitive feeling that this will come in December. And as the Ace of Wands is exactly what we want to receive once we move beyond that 10 of Wands energy, noticing too that it's upright. So it manifests in the outside world as opposed to these energies being internal. So I would have a strong inkling that many of us have been going through a dark night of the soul among so many. I'm sure you've had your fair share. I certainly have. So be assured that the Ace of Wands is available to you and clarified by the Six of Swords and the Death card. This is where we leave behind the grief into rebirth. Again, the Death card depicts the way that each character responds to the death of the king. And this comes back to what we were talking about in our mirrors. When we start to embody the fullness of inspiration, divine inspiration, we no longer look outside of ourselves for mirrors of discontentment. We only look for mirrors of inspiration. And this is an invitation to move away from the swords that have held us back, the five swords of the ego, the false constructs around victory and valor that we hold on to in order to protect our ego, where we can very often see fault in others and then construct some type of narrative around that that then justifies the ego response that is at the end of the day only detrimental to us and leaves us in total loss. As we move into manifestation of this Ace of Wands energy, we see the Knight of Pentacles, the High Priestess, and the Chariot. Now, the Knight of Pentacles is obviously a wonderful graduation from the Page of Pentacles that we saw here. And what this implies is that while it's still slow and steady wins the race, there's a firm sense of intentionality, where here there's less of a knowingness. Here, we've come into an understanding of what it is that we want to manifest, which gives us more of a sense of purpose. And with it being accompanied by the High Priestess and the Chariot, what we realize and understand is that our spiritual knowledge going into our spiritual practices, our witchcraft, our magic, whatever you like to call it, our prayers, being connected to divinity, being connected to our angelic guides, our guardians, all of the wonderful energy that is always available to us if we tap into it. That is how the chariot, the engine of the chariot gets fired up, and we can finally move forward into victory, whatever that victory is for you. I have a feeling that it was a long time coming. There's been a long stretch for many of us in our collective that has been fruitless, that has felt stagnant, that has felt, frankly, like something that we don't deserve. But we've had to go through this energetic turmoil in order to come to a place of understanding the seriousness of the commitment to our spirituality in how we are able to manifest and move forward with our goals, with our higher purpose, and being in alignment with all of the values that we hold so dearly and that you have to hold on to so dearly. If you're here doing this work, then you know these things, but it's so hard to lose sight. It's so hard when the ego, the inner child, takes control, and we feel so shattered, destroyed every time we experience a hurdle or a setback. This Ace of Wands is a delineation, a line in the sand, saying that that is being left behind. And that might sound very dramatic, but intuitively, I have a strong sense of this. It is up to you to believe that, but there is no going back anymore. This is the past. This does not represent anything that is worth taking into the future. And we've lived it so much, particularly over the last 5 years, that I know there's a deep knowingness in you that this cycle has to end. It is time to rebuild. It is time to experience all of the joys and pleasures and the connectivity and the providence. I will keep using that word that we deserve when we are in our high priestess energy. Because that's what the chariot is. The chariot is providence. The chariot is that trust in being taken care of, but in that trust, having the drive to move everything forward. This is clarified by the King of Wands, which is the ultimate card of self-confidence and a knowingness of the self, the personality, our charm, our purpose, our knowledge, our magic, once again, embodying all of this. Strength, again, these are both fire sign, Leonine energy, in particular, Sagittarian. Well, it's all the same when it comes to energetics. Fire, chariot, fire, chariot, fire. See this. We move away from the Pentacles energy because we finally integrate our sense of self-worth. And guess what happens? The Five of Cups, bye-bye. We let go of the things that we have been grieving, understanding that there are two cups still standing, and all we have to do is look up to the horizon, no longer being engulfed in this mist of sadness and grief. And it is in the reverse again. So following through with that same notion that this has always been an internal crisis more than it has been a reaction to a reality that has been held forth. And do you see that? Do you see how much at this point the stories that we tell ourselves shape our reality? We want that upright. Okay, those are your energies for this time. I hope this was helpful. I'm glad that I did this because I think we all needed this message at this time. I know you all wish me luck as I make changes in my life. I wish you luck if you're making any radical changes in yours. And I send you love and blessings. Talk to you soon. Be strong. The pursuit that has shrunken me to the size I hold today, outrunning time until time runs out on me. It's a loser's game of which I am the champion. Modern day Job, I looked for love in all the wrong places. Didn't we all? Aimless and shifty, just like our glass gods. Heavy-handed in their delicacy, as above so below, and everywhere in between. Desensitized till there's no discernible pain. The blind lead the blind, so what's an eye for an eye anyway? You're drifting back to us. Today, without prompt, I crash forcefully into the dense fog within my brain, as if to disperse it into tiny fragments. Even for just a moment, to allow the merger of will and surrender without regulation, just like splitting the atom, just like opening the star chakra, just like falling asleep. Because soul mass is measured within. But you know that, don't you? Today is a day self-imposed rules can be broken. The seed of life force can grow once more. In this we render the distance between joy and pain less sinister, more cooperative. X and Y divergent in fate until the paradox collides. To disseminate we must unfurl, and to unfurl we must release. When the fist of fury imposed merciless shame. When the clock struck faithful and nobody came.
when the dance of death cleared the halls, when innocence lost to the myth of separation, and worthiness was measured by attainment alone, always bound to flounder then fester, and this no more than a sinking grid immersed in a pool of feckless harm, whimpering like a hurricane returns to the ocean. So here's to release and to losing yourself. The greatest oddity to underscore our destined collapse is that a new foundation is scaffolded therein. As above, so below. The mystic is offline and everywhere else. The tax your heartbeat, so pay it with fervor. And remember, even the childless have an inner child to raise. It is the eternal project we cannot contain, awaiting release through complicity, not complacency. Sometimes it takes a lifetime, but it always grows once we let it.
Stone skipping to rock bottom in my own way again. In youth there was tomorrow, now only fear remains.
So let it go.
Stone skipping to rock bottom in my own way again. In youth there was tomorrow, the pursuit that has shrunken me to the size I hold today.
Outrunning time until time runs out on me.